The colony on Vexenine was supposed to be humanity's new home, a place of opportunity and peace. But ever since the Jereen arrived, things had been different. The towering reptilian aliens were warriors, strong, silent, and terrifying. Most colonists stayed far away from them, especially from one in particular, Princess Solvera. She was the most feared of them all. Ethan Carter, a mechanic and engineer, had heard the rumors like everyone else. Solvera was dangerous. She had scars across her face, sharp claws, and burning yellow eyes. She didn't speak much, and when she did, her deep, growling voice sent shivers down people's spines. Even the other Jereen seemed to avoid her. Ethan never thought he'd have any reason to meet her. But today, something impossible happened. An invitation. A real, official invitation. Sealed with the crest of the Jereen, it had been handed to him by one of their messengers. The message was simple. You are requested at Princess Solvera's tent. Come at dusk. Everyone who heard about it told him to stay away. Don't go, Carter, warned Lucas, a security officer. She's trouble. Why would she invite you? Asked Mara, his coworker. It doesn't make sense. Ethan didn't know either, but he had never been the kind of man to run from the unknown. So, as the twin suns of Vexenine set, he found himself walking toward the Jereen camp. The alien tents were massive, built from thick, scaled hides and reinforced with strange metal poles. Jereen warriors stood guard everywhere, their glowing eyes watching him closely. The whole place smelled of fire, metal, and something earthy, like a deep jungle after the rain. He stopped in front of the largest tent. The guards didn't say a word. One of them lifted the flap, motioning for him to enter. Inside, it was darker than he expected. The air was warm, and the flickering firelight cast long shadows. Solvera sat on a thick mat, her muscular frame covered in dark armor. Her piercing eyes locked onto him the moment he stepped in. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Ethan cleared his throat. You asked for me." Solvera studied him like a hunter watching prey. Then, finally, she spoke. "I need your help, human." Her voice was deep, steady. There was no threat in it, but no warmth either. Just pure strength. Ethan frowned. "My help? With what?" Solvera reached to her side and pulled something out. A strange, broken device, covered in alien symbols. She held it up to him. "You fix machines. Fix this." Ethan stared at the device, then at her. His mind raced with questions. Why him? What was this thing? And why did the most feared alien on the colony need a simple mechanic's help? One thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Ethan hesitated. The object in Solvera's claws was unlike anything he had seen before. It looked old. Really old. The metal was smooth but cracked, and strange glowing lines ran across its surface, flickering weakly like a dying ember. He glanced up at Solvera. Her yellow eyes burned with intensity, waiting for his answer. "You want me to fix this?" he asked, carefully taking the device from her hands. It was heavier than it looked. Solvera nodded. "You are human. Humans are good with machines." Ethan almost laughed. Was that why she had called him here? Because he was an engineer. He had expected something more dangerous. A threat, a warning. Instead, he was holding a broken alien artifact, like it was just another repair job. "I can try," he said slowly, turning the device in his hands. "But I need to know what it is." Solvera's expression didn't change. "It is important." "That doesn't tell me much," Ethan muttered. She leaned forward slightly. "It belonged to my ancestors, a part of my family's history." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "So it's a personal thing." Solvera didn't answer right away. Then, in a low voice, she said, "More than that." There was something in her tone, a hint of something deeper. Regret. Pain. He wasn't sure. Ethan sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "All right. I'll take a look at it. But no promises." Zalvera nodded. That is enough. She stood up, her tall frame casting a shadow over him. Without another word, she turned and walked to the back of the tent. A second later, a guard stepped inside. The princess has given you her task, the guard said, his voice cold. You may leave now. Ethan glanced at Salvera one last time, but she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at the fire, lost in thought. With a sigh, he tucked the device under his arm and stepped out of the tent. Back at his workshop, Ethan placed the device on his workbench and grabbed his tools. He had fixed plenty of colony equipment, generators, engines, communication systems, but this was different. The technology was advanced, yet old. As he examined it, he found tiny engravings along the surface, almost like writing. But it wasn't any language he recognized. What are you, huh? He muttered, tapping the metal. To his surprise, the device flickered. For a brief second, it emitted a soft hum, then went silent again. Ethan sat back. Something about this thing was strange. And if it really was as important as Salvera claimed, then fixing it might lead to something big. Bigger than just a simple repair job. Bigger than just him. He had a feeling that whatever he had just gotten himself into, it was only the beginning. Ethan spent hours studying the device. He poked at the cracked metal, traced the strange engravings with his fingers, and tried different tools to pry open the outer casing. Nothing worked. The technology was far beyond human understanding. It wasn't just wires and circuits. It was something else, something alive. Every time he touched it, the faint glow beneath the surface flickered, like it was responding to him. Frustrated, he leaned back in his chair. What the hell are you? He muttered. The device didn't answer, of course. A knock on the door made him jump. Ethan turned to see Mara, his coworker, peeking inside his workshop. You've been in here all night, she said. What are you working on? Ethan hesitated. He trusted Mara, but something told him this wasn't something he should share. Just a project, he said. She frowned. This have anything to do with the Jareen princess? Ethan stiffened. Mara sighed. Look, I don't know why she called you, but everyone's talking about it. People are scared, Ethan. She's not as scary as everyone thinks, he said. Mara scoffed. Right. She's just a 7-foot-tall alien warrior covered in battle scars. Totally harmless. Ethan sighed. I don't think she wants to hurt anyone. Mara crossed her arms. Then what does she want? Ethan looked at the device on his workbench. That's what I'm trying to find out. By the next evening, Ethan had made progress. After hours of careful work, he finally managed to open a small section of the device. Inside, instead of wires, he found something unexpected. Liquid metal, pulsing faintly like it was breathing. He reached out with a tool, carefully touching the surface. The moment he did, the device activated. A surge of energy ran through his body. The engravings glowed brightly, and the metal shifted, moving on its own. Ethan yanked his hand back as a holographic image flickered to life above the device. His eyes widened as he saw what it was. A map. Not of the colony. Not of Vexa 9. Something much older. He didn't understand the symbols. But one thing was clear. This device wasn't just some broken relic. It was something important. And Salvera had known it all along. Ethan didn't waste time. As soon as the device powered down, he grabbed it and headed for the Jareen camp. The guards at Salvera's tent didn't stop him this time. They simply stepped aside and let him enter. Inside, Salvera stood waiting. She didn't look surprised to see him. Ethan held up the device. I got it working, he said. And I think you need to tell me the truth. For the first time, Salvera smiled. Good, she said. Then we can begin. Ethan stood inside Salvera's tent, the glowing device in his hands. The flickering light from the fire made the alien princess's sharp features look even more intimidating, but Ethan was past being scared. He had questions, and he wanted answers. I got it working, he said, keeping his voice steady. "And I think you need to tell me the truth. What is this thing?" Zalvera studied him for a long moment. Then, without a word, she stepped closer and gestured for him to sit. Ethan hesitated but obeyed. The air inside the tent felt heavy, like something important was about to happen. "This," Zalvera said, tapping the device with one claw, "is a relic of my people, a lost piece of our past." Ethan frowned. "A map, right?" Zalvera nodded. "Not just a map, a pathway to something hidden long ago." Ethan glanced at the holographic projection again. He didn't understand the symbols, but the way they pulsed and shifted told him that this was more than just coordinates. "What's at the end of this pathway?" he asked. Zalvera's yellow eyes darkened. "A secret my people buried, one that could change everything." Ethan's fingers tightened around the device. "Then why haven't you told your own people?" A bitter smile crossed her face. "Because they do not want to remember." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. There was something heavy in her words, something dangerous. He took a slow breath. "Zalvera, what exactly are you looking for?" The princess exhaled, as if deciding whether to trust him. Then she spoke. "My people were not always warriors," she said. "Long ago, we were different. We built great cities, created wonders. But then a war came. A war that changed everything." Ethan listened carefully. "The war was so terrible that it broke us. We became something else, a species of conquerors. The weak were cast aside. The strong ruled. All history before the war was erased, buried under the ashes of destruction." She tapped the device again. "But this is proof that our past still exists, that everything we were is not lost." Ethan's mind spun. If what she was saying was true, then this wasn't just about her. This was about an entire civilization's forgotten history. "But if this is so important," Ethan said, "why are you the only one looking for it?" Zalvera's expression hardened. "Because those in power do not want the past uncovered. They fear it." Ethan swallowed. "So that means—" Zalvera nodded. "If they find out what we are doing, they will try to stop us." Silence filled the tent. Ethan looked down at the device, its glow reflecting in his eyes. He had come here as a simple mechanic, but now he was part of something much bigger. And he wasn't sure if he could turn back. Ethan sat in stunned silence, staring at the glowing device in his hands. It wasn't just a broken piece of technology. It was the key to a lost history, a history that powerful people wanted to stay buried. His instincts screamed at him to walk away. This wasn't his fight. He was just a mechanic, not a hero. But as he looked at Zalvera, he saw something he hadn't expected: hope. She wasn't just trying to fix a machine. She was trying to fix her entire species. Ethan exhaled slowly. "All right," he said. "I'm in." Zalvera's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "You understand the risk." "Not really," Ethan admitted. "But I've already come this far." Zalvera nodded. "Then we move quickly. The longer we wait, the more danger we are in." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Who exactly are we in danger from?" Before Zalvera could answer, a deep horn echoed across the colony, a sound that made Ethan's stomach drop. It was an alarm. Zalvera's expression darkened. "They know." Ethan's heart pounded. Who knows? She grabbed a heavy cloak from a nearby stand and threw it over her shoulders. The warlords. Ethan felt cold. He had heard about the Jareen warlords, the ruthless rulers who kept their people in line through fear and strength. If they were involved, this was worse than he thought. "What do we do?" he asked. Zalvera grabbed the device and secured it in a pouch at her side. "We run." Before Ethan could respond, the tent flap was ripped open. A Jareen warrior stood in the entrance, his scaled armor glinting under the torchlight. His yellow eyes locked onto Zalvera, then flicked toward Ethan. "You should not have meddled in things you do not understand, human," the warrior growled. Ethan swallowed hard. He had no weapon, no way to fight back. Zalvera, however, didn't hesitate. She moved like lightning. In a single motion, she grabbed the warrior by the arm, twisted, and slammed him into the ground. The warrior groaned but reached for his blade. Ethan kicked it away before he could grab it. Zalvera turned to Ethan. "Move." They burst out of the tent, stepping into chaos. More warriors were marching toward them, their weapons drawn. Behind them, human security officers stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Ethan felt his pulse hammering in his ears. This is bad. Zalvera scanned the area, then pointed toward the colony's outskirts. There's a way out through the old mining tunnels. Ethan didn't ask questions. He just ran. As the two of them sprinted through the darkened streets, Ethan realized something terrifying. There was no turning back now. He wasn't just involved. He was a fugitive. Ethan's lungs burned as he ran. The heavy boots of Jareen warriors pounded behind him, their deep voices barking orders in a language he didn't understand. Zalvera ran beside him, her long strides effortlessly keeping pace. "This way," she commanded, turning sharply down a narrow alley between two colony buildings. Ethan followed without question. He wasn't a fighter. If Zalvera thought they could escape, he was trusting her. Behind them, the warlord's men weren't slowing down. "They're gaining," Ethan gasped. Zalvera suddenly stopped. Before Ethan could react, she grabbed a metal crate from the side of the alley and hurled it into the path behind them. The heavy container crashed onto the ground, blocking the way just as two warriors turned the corner. It wouldn't hold them for long. "Keep moving," Zalvera ordered. They pushed forward, reaching the colony's outer district. Unlike the well-lit central areas, this part of the colony was dark, abandoned. The only things here were storage warehouses and the entrance to the old mining tunnels. Ethan spotted the entrance, a rusted hatch leading underground. "That it?" he asked. Zalvera nodded. "Hurry." Ethan ran to the hatch and pulled. It didn't budge. "It's locked." Zalvera stepped forward and ripped the hatch open with her bare hands. Ethan's eyes widened. "Yeah, okay, that works too." They slipped inside just as shouts rang out behind them. Zalvera yanked the hatch shut, sealing them in darkness. Ethan took a shaky breath. Did we lose them? Zalvera placed a clawed hand against the metal door, listening. The faint sounds of boots echoed above them. "For now," she whispered. Ethan sighed in relief, then turned to look at the tunnel ahead. It stretched into the dark, the air thick with dust and the scent of old rock. "So," he muttered, "what's the plan?" Zalvera pulled a small light from her belt and activated it. The dim glow cast eerie shadows on the tunnel walls. "We follow the path," she said. "The map on the device shows something hidden beneath this colony. It may be the first step toward uncovering the truth." Ethan rubbed his temples. "So let me get this straight. Not only are we running from Jareen warlords, but now we're going into ancient tunnels that might lead to something even more dangerous." Zalvera gave him a rare, amused look. "You are free to turn back, human." Ethan chuckled dryly. "Yeah, right. Like I'd survive out there alone." Zalvera nodded approvingly. "Then let us begin." As they moved deeper into the tunnel, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just running from something. They were running towards something much bigger. And whatever it was waiting for them in the dark. Ethan's footsteps echoed through the dark tunnel. The dim glow from Zalvera's light barely reached the walls, casting long, eerie shadows. The air smelled of damp rock and old metal, like a place forgotten by time. "How deep do these tunnels go?" Ethan asked, his voice hushed. Zalvera didn't look back. Far below the colony, these mines were abandoned long ago, but they were built on something older. Ethan frowned. "Older?" Zalvera stopped and pointed to a section of the tunnel wall. Ethan stepped closer, his eyes widening. Beneath the colony's rough mining tunnels, there was something different, smooth, polished metal covered in strange markings, the same kind of engravings that were on the device. "This isn't human-made," Ethan whispered. Zalvera nodded. "No, and it is not from my people either. This is something far more ancient." Ethan's pulse quickened. He had expected danger, maybe a chase. But this was history, something no one had seen for centuries. "Do you know what it says?" he asked, running his fingers along the markings. Zalvera hesitated. "I can recognize some of it. Warnings, instructions, but the full meaning is lost." Ethan exhaled. "Great. That's not terrifying at all." Zalvera ignored his sarcasm and continued forward. Ethan followed, his mind racing. They walked deeper, past more strange engravings and long-forgotten structures. Eventually, the tunnel widened into an enormous underground chamber. Ethan stopped, his breath catching. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone door covered in glowing symbols. Unlike the flickering engravings on the device, these symbols pulsed with steady energy, like they were waiting. Zalvera approached the door and reached for the pouch at her side. She pulled out the device, holding it close to the ancient markings. The moment she did, the engravings on the door flared to life. Ethan stumbled back. Is it supposed to do that?" Zalvera didn't answer. She was staring at the door, her jaw clenched. Then, without warning, the ground trembled. Ethan swore, gripping a nearby rock for balance. "Zalvera, what's happening?" She stepped back, eyes locked on the glowing door. "It is reacting. The pathway is opening." A deep rumble filled the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. The stone door shifted, ancient mechanisms grinding against each other after centuries of stillness. Ethan swallowed hard. "Tell me this isn't a trap." Zalvera didn't answer. She didn't have to. Because at that moment, the door began to open. A gust of cold, stale air rushed past them as the entrance revealed a dark passage beyond. And then, just before Ethan could speak, a deep, guttural sound echoed from the darkness. A sound that did not belong to either of them. Ethan felt his blood run cold. They were not alone down here. A deep, guttural sound rumbled from the darkness beyond the ancient door. It wasn't human. It wasn't Jareen. It was something else. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The glowing symbols on the door pulsed faster, reacting to the presence of whatever was inside. A wave of cold air drifted out, carrying the scent of dust and time. And something rotten. Zalvera tensed, placing a hand on the hilt of her blade. "Stay close," she muttered. Ethan swallowed hard. Not a problem. With slow, careful steps, they crossed the threshold into the unknown. The passage beyond was different from the tunnels behind them. The walls were smooth metal, perfectly preserved despite the centuries. Strange patterns lined the corridors, shifting slightly as if responding to their presence. "This place, it's not just a ruin, is it?" Ethan whispered. Zalvera shook her head. "No, it is alive." A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. The air felt thick, heavy, like they had stepped inside the chest of some sleeping beast. Then suddenly, a flash of movement. Ethan barely had time to react before something darted across the corridor ahead. A shadow, fast and unnatural, disappearing into the darkness. "Did you see that?" Ethan hissed. Zalvera's claws tightened around her weapon. "Yes." For a long moment, they stood still, listening. The only sound was their breathing and the faint hum of the glowing markings. Then, a whisper. Low, echoing, ancient. Not in English, not in Jareen, but something older. Ethan's heart pounded. "Zalvera, tell me you know what that means." She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes told him everything. She understood, and she was afraid. Before Ethan could speak, the passage suddenly lit up. Lines of golden light flickered to life along the walls, casting eerie shadows. The ground beneath them shifted. Then, a voice. Not a whisper this time. A deep, booming voice, ancient and powerful. Who in yours? Ethan froze. The sound vibrated in his chest, rattling his bones. It didn't come from any one direction. It came from everywhere. Zalvera stepped forward, her voice steady. We seek the truth. Silence. Then the ground shook. The walls trembled, and the golden lights pulsed brighter. The air grew heavier. Ethan clenched his fists. Zalvera, I don't think it's happy to see us. She took a deep breath. Then we must be ready. A deep growl rumbled from the darkness ahead. Then came the footsteps, slow, heavy, approaching. Ethan braced himself, knowing one thing for sure. They were not alone anymore. The heavy footsteps echoed through the ancient corridor, each step sending a tremor through the floor. Ethan's breath came in quick, shallow bursts. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a fighter. But right now, none of that mattered. Because something was coming. Zalvera gripped her blade tightly, her body tensed like a coiled spring. The golden lights along the walls pulsed faster, reacting to whatever was approaching. Then, out of the shadows, it emerged. A towering mechanical figure, nearly 10 feet tall, its body made of dark metal with glowing veins of golden energy running through its form. Its face was smooth and featureless, except for 2 piercing, circular eyes that blazed with ancient power. It stopped in front of them, standing still as if studying them. Then, in a voice that made the very air vibrate, it spoke. You do know to be along here. Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, I figured. Zalvera stepped forward cautiously. We seek the truth of this place. We seek the past. The Guardian tilted its head slightly. Then, its glowing eyes flickered, and suddenly, the walls came to life. The engravings along the corridor shifted and moved, revealing images of a lost civilization. Tall, elegant beings with glowing eyes, constructing vast cities, reaching for the stars. Ethan's eyes widened. This is history. Zalvera stared in awe. The first ones. But then, the images changed. The beautiful cities burned. The elegant beings fought among themselves. The ground cracked open, and something dark rose from below. A final image appeared, a massive door being sealed shut, the same door they had just walked through. And then, the Guardian spoke again. The CYTLE must not repeat. The air grew thick with tension. Ethan took a step back. Okay, I don't like the sound of that. The Guardian's golden veins pulsed brighter. Then, in a voice filled with finality, it declared, You must leave. Ethan's stomach dropped. And if we don't? The Guardian raised its arm. From its palm, a surge of golden energy began to build, glowing, crackling with ancient power. Zalvera reacted instantly. She grabbed Ethan and pulled him backward just as the energy exploded forward. A wave of golden light slammed into the floor where they had been standing, sending dust and stone flying. Ethan hit the ground hard, coughing as he scrambled to his feet. Yeah, okay, it's definitely not happy. Zalvera's eyes darted around, searching for a way out. But the Guardian was already advancing, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Run, she shouted. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. As they sprinted down the corridor, the golden lights flared, and the Guardian followed. It wasn't just a machine. It was a warden of the past, and it was not going to let them leave alive. Ethan ran as fast as he could, his heart hammering against his ribs. The tunnel trembled with every heavy step of the Guardian chasing them. The golden energy in its veins pulsed like an angry heartbeat, ready to strike again. This thing really doesn't want us here, Ethan gasped. Zalvera didn't respond. She was focused, scanning the tunnel ahead, looking for something. A way out, an escape, anything. Then she saw it. A narrow passage, barely visible behind a broken section of the ancient wall. There, she shouted. Ethan followed her gaze. It was tight, but it was their only chance. The Guardian raised its arm again. A surge of golden light built up in its palm, crackling like a storm. Ethan didn't think, he just dove. Zalvera grabbed his arm and pulled him through the gap just as the Guardian fired. A massive explosion of golden energy erupted through the corridor, missing them by inches. Ethan hit the ground hard, coughing as dust filled the air. Behind them, the passage collapsed, sealing them away from the enraged Guardian. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Ethan groaned. "I really hate ancient security systems." Zalvera exhaled, helping him up. "We are safe. For now." Ethan dusted himself off and looked around. The passage they had entered was different, smaller, more personal. The walls weren't just metal, they had writing on them. Not warnings, not commands. A message. Zalvera stepped forward, placing a clawed hand on the wall. The symbols reacted to her touch, glowing softly. Slowly, the writing changed, shifting into something readable. Ethan's eyes widened. It's a final record. The message told the truth of the first ones. A once great species, destroyed by their own greed for power. They had created something terrible, something that consumed them from within. In the end, they sealed it away deep underground, behind the very door Ethan and Zalvera had opened. Ethan's stomach dropped. Oh no. Zalvera's face darkened. The Guardian was not protecting a treasure. Ethan swallowed. It was protecting the universe. A cold realization settled over them. If they had continued forward, if they had unleashed whatever was behind that door, the cycle would have begun again. Zalvera turned to Ethan. "We must ensure no one else finds this place." Ethan nodded. Agreed. But how? She pulled out the ancient device. Its glow was weaker now, as if it had spent its energy revealing the truth. But it still had power. Zalvera met Ethan's gaze. "We collapse the entrance. Destroy all paths leading here. Bury the past forever." Ethan hesitated, then sighed. "I was hoping for an easier solution." She smirked. "There never is." Together, they set the device, activating the collapse sequence. As the tunnels crumbled behind them, sealing away the ancient darkness, Ethan knew one thing for certain. Some secrets should stay buried.